Hello and welcome to the Custom Vantage Office training video on installation of Custom Vantage Office. So Custom Vantage Office requires two basic forms of installation. One is going to be for the server. That's where everything lives, the data that is your company information, orders, etc. And the workstation. That's where everybody does their work. So there would be one server and there might be a dozen workstations, a shipping station, a customer service station, a management station, etc. The server is generally a standalone Windows server, and each workstation is a standard Windows computer. In this case, for the demonstration, I'm going to install both the server and the client on the same computer. You can do that if that's the only computer in your office, in your network, that will run Custom Vantage Office, but it is not typical. So the first thing you'd need to do is obtain the Custom Vantage Office ISO file. An ISO file is an electronic version of a DVD. If you get the installation ISO file from ConnectWeb, place it somewhere on your computer where you know where it is. I've placed it on my desktop. I right click, and when I right click, I'm going to mount it. I can burn a disk image from an ISO, meaning I can burn it to a physical DVD, but there's no need, because if I mount it, it's just like inserting the DVD into the DVD tray. So when I mount it, it's going to pop up, and there it is. It's mounted. It is available to me to use. I would go to the auto run file and I would right click and choose to run as administrator. Acknowledge by saying, yes, I want to allow this to happen. And here is the installation. Now, in every case, we're going to need to run some prerequisites. So we're going to go here, and the first thing I will do is install the C++ redistributable. Chances are you're on a 64-bit computer, but in the case of this runtime, you must install both the 32-bit version and the 64-bit version. So we'll start with the 32-bit version. We click the button, agree, and install. This is a very fast install, only takes a moment, and you can see that it's done. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the 64-bit version. Again, I'm going to acknowledge or accept and click the install. That's all there is to it for the redistributable. Now I go back, and this time I'm going to install the SQL Express. SQL, that's the database server. You can use the full-blown version of SQL Server if you have it, or in this case, we're going to install the Express version. When it installs, and this only gets installed on the server, so it only gets installed once. It does not get installed on each workstation. When it installs, the administrator username SA and the password going to be set to password #1. The instance, that's the name that we're going to attach to, is whatever your machine name is, \CVO. Now you may not know what your machine name is, so we're going to go to Control Panel. Now, you can change the name of your computer to anything you'd like, but by default, if you've installed Windows from default, you would have a name that Microsoft dynamically created for your computer at the time of installation. So I'm in Control Panel. Now, your Control Panel might look a little different. Your Control Panel might look like this. And if it does, you don't have access to everything you're going to need. So you're going to want to go over here to View By and change it from category to either large or small icons. Once you do that, click on System. Once you click on System, you will see the computer name. You can change it. If I choose to change it, I can make it whatever I want, but then I'll be forced to reboot in order for that change to take effect. So I'm just going to accept what Microsoft called it. All right, so that's where we are. So we're going to click on the install of the database SQL Express. Now, I will caution you that this installation takes quite a long time, can be as long as 20 minutes. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch the screens roll by. I'm going to pause the video and I will return when this installation is completed. Just know that this installation of the database, Microsoft SQL Express, does require an internet connection. It does go out to the internet to Microsoft to grab a couple of things it needs and to do some verifications. So you must install this on a computer or server that has access to the internet. All right, so I'm going to let this continue, and this looks like it's almost done, but it's not. There are about 4 screens that it's going to go through. Each time it finishes one, it pauses for a moment to grab some new things, and then it continues on. So I will return as soon as this is complete. Just giving you some quick snippets as it progresses. As you can see, it's progressing, but it will take quite some time. Okay, that has completed, took about 10 minutes. So once that's completed, we hit the back button and the back button one more time. And then we go to the Custom Vantage Office installation. This will actually install the program. And this program does have to be installed on each workstation. I usually recommend installing it on the database server as well for testing purposes. So this will be the actual installation of CVO. We'll go through, and you can accept all of the defaults as we go through. You really don't have to change anything if you just accept the defaults. Now, right here, client only is what you would install on a workstation. On the server, you would install both client and server. So you'd only do this piece once. This one might be done multiple times, one for each workstation. This one only on the server. Okay. So now it's looking for installations of the database server. I recommend going with SQL in server authentication. So we said that that username was SA and the password was password #1 with a 0 instead of an O. And if we look here, this is the name of the computer. So we will type the username and password #1. We will then type in the computer name, which we have right here. Desktop dash. And then we put the \CVO. And it says it's successfully connected. Click OK and next. Now it will go through the rest of the installation. Okay, this will take just a few moments, so I'm going to once again pause the video and come back when this is completed. If a message like this pops up, we are just going to click yes to all. Okay, that has now finished, and so we click on the finish button. Once we do that, we no longer need this, and we can go back here. Oops. That's Custom Vantage loading. This is still the installer, but we can go back and we can exit. These are some add-ons. We'll talk about those in a minute. Add-ons would be the shipping interface and a zip codes database. So shipping interface will let you automate shipping for FedEx, US Mail, and or UPS. All right. So in the meantime, we're just going to exit this. And when you do, it's going to pop this Custom Vantage Office. We'll close that for now. Now this is where the first time you run Custom Vantage Office, it's going to ask you, to what database are we connecting? And we'll connect with the same thing. Okay, and then we click connect to server. And once we do that the first time, it won't ask us again once we've successfully connected. Oh, well, that's a silly mistake. I forgot to add the /CVO. Hopefully you caught that even though I didn't. Connect to server, and now it will actually connect to the server. There we go, it connected. And you can see there's a sample company, and if that's the company we wanted, we would click Open Database. If we wanted to create our own company file, which I'm sure is what we would want to do, we click on Create New Database. Create New Database is going to bring up a new dialog screen where we're going to make some choices. Okay, so once again, we're going to have to connect to that database server. Okay, so we're going to go to /CVO. Connect to the server. What's the company name? My company. No spaces in the database name. Okay, so put in the new company name, no spaces, and click Create New Database. Once we do that, it's going to cycle through, it's going to create the database, and then it's going to ask us to set up a couple of basic things within this new database. There we go. Okay, setup has completed creating the database. Now we give a username and password. Oops. And this new person is going to be an administrator, and next. You get to choose your currency. I would definitely use the default chart of accounts. You can create your own, but this will take you another few hours of setup and configuration time. I highly recommend using the default chart of accounts. You can add some things to it if you need to, but it's an excellent starting place. So the new account has been created. Do you want to add? Yes, you're going to say yes. You're going to add those new to your new company. All right. Fiscal year. What is the fiscal year? So for most folks, it's a calendar year. Yours may not be. So I'm going to choose this to be starting January 1st. And again, you can set it up for whatever it truly is. And then we need the retained earnings account, which is labeled retained earnings. Once you get this far, you need to click generate. That's going to generate the periods. And in this case, 12 periods would be from January to December. My periods are monthly. Those are created. Click next. Fill in all of your company information, etc. I won't bother to complete it here. What are your defaults? So if we have default terms, let's say net 30, imported means coming from the web. We might call that prepaid. Some people might call it credit card. Maybe my default shipping is USPS, or might be, oops, first class mail, might be UPS ground, whatever your default should be. And you can change all of these things later. I wouldn't change it. Now, if you're going to be tracking inventory, then this is going to be the default. If you're not tracking inventory, then you should set your default to be service, because we don't ever check to see if we have a service in stock. Okay, and then we'll click next and done. That's the final step. Now the company exists. You can see that it's trying to log into my company name. That's the new one, and whatever the username and password I created was. Now, I will point out there is a default admin, and if you look at the documents, it says it's admin 2011 as the password. In any case, once you've gotten this far, you have successfully set up Custom Vantage Office, and now you just need to add your inventory, add your particular customers, set up your interface to import orders from websites. But congratulations, you've got it done. Now, I will point out one final thing, and that is we took about 20 minutes to make this video, but with all of the pausing that I did, know that the full install time is approximately 48 minutes to an hour. Thank you again for choosing Custom Vantage Office.